Okay, this is part 2 in what I'm calling the natcat. That's my grandson Nathan holding his cat. So I'm calling this file the natcat pictures. We're going to move this. Here's the JPEG that we created from the raw file in part 1. Now we're going to put this into Gimp and work with it further. So I've got Gimp installed here. Drag this aside. Gimp is a drag and drop program. So you click, hold it down, drag it over into Gimp, release it. We can minimize this now or close it down, whatever. Get rid of it. We don't need it. First thing we're going to do is crop. Come over to the crop tool in Gimp. Double click it. Brings up this box. I have it, my presets fixed on this. I can change them. I use the fixed aspect ratio, usually an 8:10. And then it's very important for me to always use this rule of thirds. It helps you in your composition, get you a good composition. So I'm going to start up here somewhere, and I already got this done, so it doesn't really matter, but I want to get an 8:10, and the rule of thirds, I try to get things on the thirds. So let's try to put his eye right on the third, and I've got the cat's eye on the third. Then the second thing I try to do is get a balance from side to side. I don't like this much out there on the side of that cat. I want to bring that in. That might throw my thirds off just a little bit, maybe not. Put that eye back on the third. Both eyes are on the third. And you've got a nice angular flow leading into the picture. Your subject matter here are these two faces and two sets of eyeballs staring back at you. I'm not sure if I like the balance here. I think I want just a little bit more balance from left to right. You know, I'm looking at the spacing in here and maybe the spacing on his head here. So we're still close to the third rule there. So I think that's a pretty good spot. So let's click it, and that's the composition we're going for. Now you can see we did a better job in Canon's program fixing this up. The lights and the darks coming out. Let's zoom this into. Let's make it. We can probably go 25 on this. Let's look and see what 25 looks like. If it doesn't, might be a bit much. It is a bit much. Take it down to about 22. Hit enter. There we go. Now we can see the whole thing and work on it. You notice it's a little bit blurry. It's not sharp because we didn't sharpen it. Most cameras are set with some sharpness. Digital film does not record near the detail that the old-fashioned slide and negative film recorded, but you can make up for it with easily with the digital process, and that's the great thing about it. Everybody's got their own darkroom now. Okay, so we're going to take this picture, and right away I want to come over here. Here's my different layers. I want to make at least one copy of that. Probably, let's do 2, because I'm going to want another one later, I know. So now you're always working on whatever you highlight here. If I want to work on this copy, I would have to highlight it first. So we're going to stay on this one. The first thing I'm going to do is what's called a contrast mask. And to do that, I go into colors. I desaturate. I'm basically making a black and white. And I usually like lightness, the lightness mode. You can go luminosity, but that just darkens your blacks even further, and that's what I'm trying to get away from. So we'll stick with that. Then you go back into colors, and you invert and make that into a negative, a black and white negative. You come over here. This is what we're working on. Didn't have to click it again. It was already highlighted. We're going to go up to the layer modes, and this is really cool. Everybody needs to learn how to use these different layer modes and explore them. For this, we're going to go and put an overlay. When you overlay it, it's melding this material in with this material in a certain fashion, and that's what you come up with. I don't know why I've got this line. Oh boy, I don't know what that is. Hope it goes away. I'm going to continue on here. There we go. Got rid of that line. Just a digital malfunction. Now what we want to do on this layer, and this will help bring our sharpness back a little bit, is go into a Gaussian blur. I know this doesn't make much sense, but when you blur the negative, that's what we're going to be blurring, is this negative, which again has that crazy line in it. We're going to blur this negative, and by blurring it, it's actually going to make the picture that it shows through to sharper, more in focus. So we do a Gaussian blur, and for this process, somewhere between 10 and 30 is usually the best thing. We're going to do 15. I just grab that, kind of my normal setting. Let's blur that. You can see that slightly blurred that picture. But when you open this up and come back to it, it actually sharpened it. The offsetting of those lines with the blur and then recombining with this sharpens your edge strength, which is what sharpening is. So all your edges became sharper. Every little edge around a nostril, anything that's got a line or any kind of lines in it, those lines will sharpen. Okay, now I don't know why I get that crazy line. Now we've done that. That's pretty good. Look how adding that negative and blending it through the overlay mode. Look how that brought back all the detail in the shadows. That's what we were trying to do. Even the shadows around the face, it lightened up a lot. And it did that without lightening up these areas. So that's a pretty good picture right there now that we've got. What I don't like about it, it's a little bit flat. We've lost the contrast in doing this. So let's go down to this one. I could try, well, and I can't remember exactly how I do it. Let's go into colors and do curves. That's my favorite thing. Usually want an S curve. An S curve is what'll bring back the contrast. You got to be careful. You don't want to blow out your whites. Here it's going to be the opposite because we're actually reading the negative. So you got to subtract this 6 from 255, so 249. That's right where we wanted it. That brings back a little bit of contrast. So we're going to click OK on that. And it's still a little washed out. Let's go down to this layer now. Do the same thing. We'll click on that. That'll bring this up. We're going to put a little contrast back in there. We're going to take the darks down. Don't want to take them too dark. We don't want to lose this detail. It's darkening up, but we haven't lost it. It's starting to get a nice look to it. And we'll put the contrast back into the whites. Again, I don't want to. 249. That's pretty good. Don't want to really go any higher than that. Let's try getting a little more darkness. It's all subjective, you know. There's no right and wrong. All right, let's try that. Now this is blending through. if I go back up here, this overlay is blending through down to this picture. This one is in normal. So we're not seeing anything on this picture. We could make any changes to here and it wouldn't show up unless we put this into a different mode also. So this is just an extra we got on standby down here. So now I'm liking that pretty well. What I want to do is add some sharpness to it now. We could add some colors, but when you do this thing and darken it, that brings your colors out. So we've already improved the colors just by fixing that, and they look pretty good. So we're not going to do any more with that. So we want to sharpen. So I go into filters, go down to enhance, and my favorite sharpening tool is unsharp mask. It just does a really nice job. These are the standard settings, 5 and 0.5. Just stay with that for most shots. And we click on that, and the picture should get sharper. And it does. That's really, really nice. What I think I'm going to do now, we can leave that. Let's no, I'm going to merge that down. We've done everything we need to. We could leave it and save it like that and come back and play with it later. But I'm going to merge that down. You don't have to, but it just makes it easier. So we want to merge down. That merges that negative now is permanently part of this, unless we go back and undo it, and we're not going to. So now this is the picture we're working on. Here's the original. Wow, what a difference, huh? Here's what we've come up with. Now I have one more step that I usually like to do, and that's a vignette. I do vignettes on a lot of things. Here's my subject matter, these two faces. I want to make them really pop. And I've showed this before. We're going to do it again. We're going to create another layer in the foreground color, which is black. That's what we want for this process. Click OK. Here's our black thing, and then we put it into the soft light mode. This darkens the entire picture. Now what we're going to do, my goal here, here's that crazy line again. My goal here is, let's minus this. This is too bright. I want to darken this down. This is plenty dark enough, so I don't want to darken the top of this at all, just the bottom. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to take my selection tool, free select tool. I've got the edges set as feathering for 5. That doesn't really matter on this. Then I'm going to draw with my tool. I'm going to catch just the top corner. I don't really even need to because those are dark enough, but just out of habit I kind of... But here's the part that I want to darken. I want to come across this shoulder like this. And maybe a little bit... No, I don't want to catch that cat at all. I'm going to come right down off the picture because I don't want to darken up what's already dark. Connect it. Now here's my selected area. I'm going to hit edit and I'm going to clear that selected area. Now that brings back, that takes away the blackness. Here's what we did. We're working on this layer right here. This is invisible. This is the only part that's visible now. So now we're seeing what's shining through onto this invisible portion. And that's what we want to do. Now we select none. Select none. We go back to Gaussian blur. Recently used, it should be there. Gaussian blur. Now for this, we don't want 15. We want to get rid of this line. What we're trying to blur is this black line, the edge of this black line right here on this layer. And we're still working on this layer. This black line right here we want to blur. 15% is only going to blur it that much. This is that little corner right up here, I believe. So what you usually want, you look at the size of your photo. your longest edge is 2600 pixels. So I usually want to do 10 to 20% of that, so or around 15. So 20% of 2670 would be around 520 pixels. So we'll take this up somewhere near 500. Its exact number isn't important, but you can see what happens. See how the black edge blurred there? That's what we want. I'm gonna click OK. That's gonna blur that, and look at the nice effect you get. You darken this whole corner. Oh, it wouldn't have hurt to hit that a little bit too. I don't like that little gray spot down there. And that's easy to redo. I redo that stuff all the time. Once you see it, we'll go back. Now here's where we're going to start from again. We go back here, get our selection tool. Let's redo it. I want to take out that one corner a little bit. Come right across that shoulder. I don't want to come up that gray corner. It was right down in there. Take that out, hook her back up. Edit, clear, select, none. Then Gaussian blur, we've already got set up, so we can just repeat Gaussian blur. Boom, there we go. Now that little gray corner darkened up nicely, and that's what we wanted. So let's go back to here. What you can do here, and this is real interesting, something I figured out the other day. I'm going to go back to here. Or am I? I'm going to create a layer, a new layer from the visible. That stacks it up here. Now, none of these are showing through. All you're seeing is this because it's in normal mode. So now you can work on this to your heart's delight, and if you mess it up, and sometimes you lose these, they'll reset, like this has. This is reset with the base image now there. So I've lost a lot of my undo steps. So by doing this, you create a picture that you can work on to your heart's content, and all you got to do is delete this visible layer, and you're back to what you had, and you can start all over if you want to. But that's looking pretty nice. Let's see what happens when I lower this layer down one. Oh my goodness, look at that. That really darkened that up. And that's what I discovered kind of by mistake. But look what that does. That just makes your subject matter shine. That's too dark. I don't want it that dark. So what we'll do is go back up to here. In effect, what that did was double. By moving the visible under here, it doubled the strength of this, and that's too strong. So let's take it down to maybe something more pleasing. It's not quite that dark. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. Now we could actually do a new visible layer, put it on top, and work on that and save all this. And I think we'll do that. New visible layer. It's going to be right on top. Now we can work on this one. There's one more thing I want to do, and I hope I can do it quickly because this is getting kind of long. Let's take this up to 200%. We're going to work on touching up the face on this. And I'm going to save that for part 3. So we're going to end it right here. Thanks for watching.